Hello everyone, I want to make a video regarding all the stuff that has happened with the Elder Scrolls Online lately. It's not gonna be as fun or whimsical as the one I made a few months ago about ZeniMax's wrongdoings, but I feel like there are important things that have to be said. Looking back at that video and what I said during it and how things played out this year, it's funny how everything I said that would happen in that video, even the hyperbolical stuff, did end up happening. Almost letter for letter. For those of you that don't know, this has been ESO's first year of using their brand new monetization model, which is basically a gaming pass, but for content. You pay once and you get all the new content that will be introduced that year, with the exception of the stuff that will be in the Crown Store. And well, where do I begin? There are times where you can fumble and people won't care. There are other times where you can fumble and people will only care mildly. The Elder Scrolls Online is at a state where people expect fumblings and only fumblings. Everything that was introduced this year was so garbage that you would have to pay me to play it had I known it would be this bad. With the exception of the dungeons and the trial, those were just mediocre. So you might ask, why did I go through them if I knew damn well how low the bar is? I still have a soft spot in my head for ESO. Second, I kept shouting that ESO needs to innovate, and initially, that's what it seemed that they were doing. And third, this has been a terrible year for ZeniMax. The powers that be cancelled their new MMO that they were working on and laid off a lot of stuff, including an old lore master for ESO, who made some very good story content for the game. The reason for the cancellation of this project was simple. Hello Microsoft, why did you cancel this project?
Money!
I'm not gonna harp on the details because this became mainstream gaming news a while ago. The studio director even quit because of it. TLDR, ESO is ZeniMax's ride or die, and right now it is a die. ESO's player count on Steam charts right now is the lowest it has been since pre-Summer's Isle. Content around the game barely gets any coverage, and the coverage that is happening is watched only by a few people, and the sentiment in the community is, as the Steam reviews say, mostly negative. I want to make one thing clear. These issues have been boiling up for years. It is only the case that this year they have been generated in the most egregious form yet. This video isn't my attempt to satirize bad behavior, that was months ago. This video is me analyzing a corpse to see if it should be buried or taxidermied instead, because there is no coming back from this. What the past years have done to ESO is irreversible. You will never play that fast-paced game with the exciting combat again. It doesn't exist anymore. Let us see what is left of it. The order of this video will be a bit unorthodox. I want to first talk about the two main features that we were supposed to get this year, because they are the ones that flop the most. Ain't that a coincidence? First of all, subclasses. Wow, subclasses. The feature no one asked for, and everyone saw where this was going. My problem with subclasses is that after this update goes live, you can be sure of two things. One, for the next year at least, you're gonna have to change everything: weapon, armor, enchantments, and you're gonna have to keep changing them because you know for a fact that they aren't done with this. And two, this is content now. I'm here to tell you it went exactly how I said it would go. The combat has been homogenized, simplified to the point of unrecognizability, and dare I also say, boredom. Basically, they made it so every class can use skills from other classes. This was done after giving every class skill making, by the way, and after different types of damage were homogenized, and weaving attacks was also nerfed significantly. So I think it's safe to say they don't know what they're doing with the combat. Nothing was broken to begin with. It just needed more animations and maybe a fresh coat of paint, and for some reason they did all of this. It baffles me how we got to this point when it comes to the combat. It's like I go to a restaurant I go to a restaurant, I buy a burger, I then eat the hamburger, and the chef walks by me and asks, "How was your burger?" And I say, "Dude, it was awesome. Probably one of the best burgers I've ever had. Maybe just a bit more sauce though." Then I leave, come again a different day, buy the same burger, and I get a plate of sauce instead, with nothing else. And what is even worse, they got the sauce wrong as well. I like how now they're doing more vengeance testing for future improvements in Cyrodiil. Cyrodiil is dead. Cyrodiil depended on this game having good combat. It had it, but it didn't have good servers. Now, it neither has good combat nor good servers. So in a roundabout way, ZOS fixed Cyrodiil. What is happening? Legit, what is happening? Cyrodiil has a mere fraction of the population it once had. I'm just gonna say it.
You know what? I'm about to say it.
Even if you quote-unquote fix Cyrodiil, I wouldn't care to come back. Cyrodiil was a way to experience the PvP. Now that it's done for, what am I supposed to do in Cyrodiil? I keep asking myself with every one of the features that I'm covering in this video, can it be salvaged? And for Cyrodiil and ESO combat, the answer is no. No, it can't. This is my hot take, if you can even call it that by this point. ESO combat cannot be salvaged. I think when I talk about topics like this, it's very easy to interpret what I'm saying as the words of a disillusioned player. I want what's best for this game. Seriously. And this clearly isn't it. Whoever asked for subclasses? I wanna tell you a story, right? I first really got into this game with the Elsewhere chapter. Back then, Classic WoW was also being released. I had dabbled in WoW, but I had no interest in going back for Classic. Something felt desperate to me, like it wasn't something I should care about. And I remember thinking to myself, oh, thank God, this isn't gonna happen to ESO. After all, the world here scales with the level of the player. I can play the same stories right now as they existed during launch. This is never going away. They're just gonna build new stuff on top of what already exists here. While I was playing the server-wide event that I'm gonna talk about next, I kept thinking to myself, oh boy, I sure wish I was playing this game with the combat that existed during Elsewhere. This has been the worst destruction of a combat system that was also purposefully executed by the developers that I have ever seen in any game. Now, what about the server-wide event? Oh yeah, I definitely trust the people who made Cyrodiil look like the backrooms to make a server-wide event. You wanna know what the quote-unquote server-wide event is gonna be? Remember those Anchor events from 2014? Well, that, but like bigger, and maybe there's a bar somewhere. When I said this, I was partially joking, but I guess parodies have a way of mirroring reality, don't they? This was exactly on point on what the event ended up being. This is a magical event, first and only time it will ever be in game. We are all very excited for it. Don't miss it. Front and center of the advertisement was just a bunch of dailies to fill a bar. The event was split into 3 stages, and the first 2 stages were just players doing boring, terribly designed, repeatable dailies to fill 2 bars. 98% of this event was doing dailies. I cannot describe to you how shocked I was. I know this video is heavy on SpongeBob memes already, but it really was like the SpongeBob episode where Mr. Krabs was announcing an amusement park for the kids so that he can take their pocket money, and then he peels back the curtain to show the amusement park that he has been working on and hyping up and gotten all the money for, and it's this scuffed, cheap dumpster site made to look like an amusement park. This is essentially what the Writhing Wall event was. I have to give a public PSA announcement for the ESO fam. Dailies aren't events. Stop it. This is 2025 heading into 2026. God help us. This game, ESO, might as well be a gacha game. Do you know what kind of events do games have these days? Limited time cinematics, new lore drops, new unique quests with unique gimmicks, new LAN content sometimes. Dailies with bonus rewards aren't events. They are what we know as boosts. Back to the Writhing Wall. Reading how they worded this event versus how it actually happened and how the developers reacted to it is an amazing study on how ZOS works. Phase 1. Supply and defense. Gather supplies and stage defenses for the clash to come. Complete daily quests. Stop it right there. Everything else is useless. Do dailies. Got it. Phase 2. The assault begins. Take the fight to the Worm Cult. Complete daily quests to strengthen the war effort. Maintain siege camp defenses and defeat world bosses. There is a single world boss. I don't know why they said bosses. Phase 2 was the same as Phase 1. Just do dailies. Phase 3. Breach the wall, invade the Wraithen Wall, and unlock the new region. The public instance is only available for a limited time, so do your part before it shuts down forever. Now, Phase 3 was interesting. Not because it was actually interesting, but because I play on the NA server and it played out during 3 AM for my time zone. So I stayed up all night and well into the morning just so I can be there when the wall did eventually fall. Yes, Gandalf, I was there 3,000 years ago when the walls above Solstice fell. I was doing what this game is known for, clapping at nothing. By the way, the wall is just a GIF. I just thought I should mention that. And let me tell you what I saw that fateful morning. When I played through it, initially I thought that Phase 3 was amazing. It felt good. The one good thing I can say about the entirety of the Wraithen Wall event is that it brought a lot of people to do activities in the same locations. I actually got that good MMORPG feeling, you know, when there is a small army of people clouding the screen because they have to kill a big boss. That was really good. So I woke up the next morning thinking to myself, oh boy, I can make a fun little video about how cool and epic the third stage of the Wraithen Wall event was. And then I actually had a look at the stuff that I recorded. It would seem to be the case that the continuous lack of sleep has a serious effect on the way I perceive something being fun. To an extent, I appreciate them hosting this event so late for my time zone because they actually had me fooled into thinking, well, hallucinating maybe, that this event was actually fun. You not, throughout this entire event, throughout this whole thing, there isn't a single new character model. The enemy bosses are stretched out models of normal enemies that have been in game since launch. See, this is where I would make a joke or something, but things are so ridiculous that I can't come up with anything actually as bizarre as this. We have reached a point where ridiculous behavior is the norm. The whole third stage was just the worst version of a normal trial. In fact, I played the new trial, Ocean Cage, and it was 50 times better than this, and it wasn't even front and center of advertisement. When the devs heard this feedback, they were quick to respond, stating that the limited time event would be brought back so that everyone can experience it, since on release it was full of bugs. Thankfully, I didn't encounter any of them, I think. So much for being a limited time event then, but I guess it's only fair for people who didn't experience it because of the bugs. And apparently, they are also offering 8,000 Seals of Endeavor on day 1 of the December dailies. No. Bro, you can make this shit up. I can say these words with a straight face and not see the obvious issue with them and laugh about it. And they're out here publishing this shit just fine. If ZeniMax was written within a fictional universe to be a token out of touch company, I would probably write a comment that the way they are written is so cartoonish that it almost becomes a parody of ignorance. I can't believe it. I can't believe that they thought this was in any way acceptable. How much do you want to bet that there is a large section of the community who will think that this is a good thing? I understand that some of you might not see the blatant issue with all of this, so I'm gonna elaborate. It is stupid to give a shitty, grindy, god-awful currency as a way of saying sorry for a feature that we actually paid money for. They aren't even giving crowns, they're giving Seals of Endeavor, a currency so bad that for me at least, it killed the game. The only acceptable response that would make me happy involving the Seals of Endeavor would be this. As of December 1st, we are abolishing the Seals of Endeavor. And furthermore, as if all of this wasn't bad enough, they aren't giving away enough to get the high tier stuff. So it's still just a vehicle to push people to the crown store. You are not gonna have enough endeavors to get an Apex mount? Oh, but you really want the Apex mount, don't you? Well, you can always just buy crates, or you just won't get it, you peasant. Thank you for buying our first content pass. Enjoy getting played twice. So the combat changes were a disaster, the event was a disaster, the response was bad. Oofed. Aren't I such a positive member of this community? Okay, time to talk about the thing you are all probably here about. The lore and the stories.
I can honestly say that you will always have a place at Sanguine's table. And the drink he pours will be of his finest wine. The next time he has hands, of course.
I am proud to say that the lore for Solstice isn't as bad as Gold Road. I rate Gold Road with a very deserving 0 out of 10 because of how badly they wrote Ithelia and how terribly they attempted to address the whole Talos/jungle concept. 0 out of 10 is me being linear. Realistically, it should have been a -10 out of 10. I am proud to say that the lore of Solstice isn't as bad as Gold Road. I think that the story found in the Seasons of the Wormcult was better than that. It was not a 0 out of 10, it was a 2 out of 10. First of all, I will start with the obnoxiously bad. I never thought that I would say what I am about to say about an Elder Scrolls game. Never, not in my wildest dreams. But I mean this as a sincere proposal that would greatly improve the quality of questing in the future. Zos, please, ditch the side content. The spirit is not there, the soul is not there, there are no resources, the creativity has departed, I don't know. And at this point, I don't care. This is embarrassing. The side content doesn't even make an attempt at anything. I almost find it hard to structure my feedback in a productive way that isn't as blunt. I'll put it to you this way. The most thought-provoking and awe-inspiring part of the side content of the Seasons of the Wormcult comes through observing how terrible and thoughtless it is. So let me tell you what I mean by this. When they were introducing the zone, they talked about 2 featured pieces of side content, a circus and a Forgotten Temple of Meridia. Starting with the circus, I actually had high hopes for this one, because in it, there is a talking goat with glowing red eyes.
She attracts trouble like Nirn attracts Molag Bal.
The talking goat is sanguine, so what kind of adventures and mischiefs are we gonna partake in this wacky scenario? Nothing. Nothing. Someone hijacked Sanguine Circus and we have to kill a bunch of people so we can get our friends back. In this circus, with Sanguine in it, there is not a single joke, there is not a single minigame, there is not a single new creature, and not a single reward. The voice acting is excellent.
Terribly awry. Oh, you won't be able to leave without facing those dreaded globules. It seems some of the gooey monsters, the little ones, have ingested some sort of key.
This is the only good thing that I can say. The second featured quest was the Forgotten Temple of Meridia, and in it you have to...
Am I talking to me?
You know what? Do you really want a description for this one too? No. No you don't. Instead of going through the motions, let me just give you the structure of ESO side content during the Seasons of the Wormcult in the form of an allegorical story. Behold, a side quest in ESO. As I was walking mindlessly and aimlessly in my neighborhood, I encountered an old man in a wheelchair. I had known this man since I was a wee boy. The man tells me, "Hey there son, I'm just going to the supermarket, but my old bones hurt a bit too much today. Say, mind if you help me out today? Who knows, something interesting might happen along the way, and you might get something sweet from it as well." I thought, yeah, I might as well help the old man out. So we go to the local Tesco, I get all of his shopping for him, put it in bags, go to the self-scan, scan everything, scan his club card even, but the moment I try to pay, the self-scan till breaks. So I have to scan everything again in a different self-scan so we can pay and leave. Finally we pay, I pack his stuff, and then he tells me, "Oh, thank you so much. You really are the hero of my day. As a reward, here's this." And as he says this, he stands up perfectly from the wheelchair, picks up a bag full of garbage from his trash can, gives it to me, and with a perfect smile, he says, "Here is your reward for all that hard effort." And then I ask, what was the interesting thing that was supposed to happen? "Oh, don't you remember? The self-scan till broke." Silly. Actually, now that I think about it, this story is way too good to be an ESO quest, but you get the big idea. The side quests are nothing. So these are the side quests. But what about the main quest? Let me give you a quick rundown of the main quest before I give you my thoughts on it. The prologue to Solstice actually had a bit of backbone to it. In it, the leader of the Fighters Guild dies, vanishes Vanus Galerion gets captured, and Prince Azar, who is the son of the king of Hammerfell, becomes the de facto leader of the Fighters Guild. So far so good. I could even say that I was a bit hopeful. My only issue is that they keep nerfing Vanus Galerion, who is one of the most powerful mages of all time. They have to make him progressively dumber so that he can get captured, otherwise he becomes a plot hole because he is too powerful to be contained within the stories.
Scordo, you're injured. No, Varus, I'm over here. That's not me.
Arrogant mage. My master demands your presence.
Dragging Varus into a portal. The great mage does not fall easily.
You can't have him, creature!
Protect the staff!
But other than that, it was fine. From that point, we go to the new area. 50% of the first half of quests in Solstice, essentially the two first quests, are completely boring and useless. I can't even tell you anything interesting about them. They are that bad. There is nothing in them. And at that point, I saw the writing on the wall. This was just another gold road. But then something happened during the third quest, and I want you to bear with me because it's about to get interestingly bad. In the third quest, we find Menemarco's sarcophagus, meaning that the worm cult is trying to bring back Menemarco using an artifact called the Gift of Death, which allows someone to exchange a living soul for another which is dead. For this to be done, the living soul must be willing to be sacrificed in order to return the dead person.
The Gift of Death can recall to life any departed soul, at the cost of a willing sacrifice. A life for a life.
So one of Menemarco's cultists wants to sacrifice himself to bring back Menemarco, but in the process, he fails. The Gift of Death is broken, but Menemarco instead decides to possess the cultist and returns anyway.
You've already lost!
Your body is mine now, Wormblood. Menemarco lives.
Is this good storytelling to anyone? Also, okay, this is gonna be nitpicky criticism, which, because there are bigger problems with this story, I will refrain from doing, but I think this particular point is worth saying. They seem to have a weird way of dealing with magic, and by weird, I mean we are applying the what is convenient when it's convenient mentality. Like there is this scene where we are trying to kill a cultist, but we can because every time he dies, his soul just comes back to its body because he's a necromancer, and another character goes, "Oh my god, this is terrible, his soul keeps coming back."
Dark moons. He's coming back to life. It is foolish to fight a foe who cannot die.
And I'm out here thinking, yeah, this is terrible. If only we were in a franchise where soul trapping is considered basic magic. In another case, an important character, Gabrielle, gets tricked and stabbed by a necromancer pretending to be Vanus Galerion by using illusion magic.
I need help, Gabrielle! Where are you?
Vanus, we're here! You're safe now!
Gabrielle is supposed to be a powerful mage, and powerful mages are supposed to be able to detect cheap spells like that. Otherwise, they become a bit cheesy, because anyone can basically sneak up on anyone. I think the use of the spell displays a lack of creativity, because it's used early on as well. Anyway, Gabrielle is about to die, and with her last breath, she uses the Gift of Death to bring Darien back, who is an old champion of Meridia who gets killed during the events of the Somerset Isles chapter. From here, everything basically revolves around Darien losing his powers because Menemarco steals them from him. Oh, by the way, Menemarco steals and uses the powers of Meridia. Yes, so please process that one for me.
Don't worry about me.
You have my thanks. You delivered a light of Meridia into my hands, just when I needed one the most.
We end up gathering a bunch of allies and breaking the wall via the event, crossing into the second half of the story. We take back Meridia's light and use it to stop Menemarco. There are a lot of details that I'm skipping because I don't want to bore people, so I'm just gonna focus on my problems. The main problem of this story is that so many times they introduce items or ideas or concepts, but they don't elaborate on them and just use them as plot devices. And I don't mean they don't elaborate as in they try to make these items look mysterious. serious. When I say they don't elaborate, I mean the ideas feel half-baked and don't fit into the setting at large. More so, they just use them as plot devices. The Gift of Death and the new soul-sucking machines are a prime example of this. It's not that these items can't exist in the universe, it's that so little effort is given into placing them in the universe that they don't feel like they're a part of it. When I think Gift of Death, I don't think Heart of Lorkhan or even Wabbajack. I think plot device used for quests 4 and onwards. Moreover, I get the feeling that the developers have a very flawed perception of what character development is. Darian's character suffers from the same issue as Ithelia's. They don't develop, they keep stating who they are to the player and their current emotional state, and this is somehow supposed to mean that they've become better or different. Throughout the story, Darian loses his powers, his purpose, his crush, and none of that changes his character. There is a moment where Darian has some self-reflection and some genuinely good dialogue.
Gabrielle sacrificed herself to bring me back, but without Meridia's power, what am I? I'm nothing.
And I think that the writers kind of realized that. They realized that they almost wrote the character development correctly, so the next time we talk to him, he devolves into a childish figure of himself.
Gabrielle's down here. I have to help her.
Darian, this way.
Do not listen. The spirits seek to deceive you.
I need to help her. Don't wait for me.
Hey friend, here we are, about to storm another fortress of ultimate evil. Wouldn't it be nice if just once the bad guys were lurking in a tavern that served passable ale, or maybe the back room of a good bakery? I miss a decent loaf of bread.
I would say that the last scene and Gabrielle's last dialogue with him was actually good. It was solid, in a way.
You're not responsible for my fate, just as I'm not responsible for yours.
And from that point onward, there was some change, and they kinda leave the character in a cliffhanger. After we defeat Metamarco, there is a quest with Darian, in which we find a memory of Metamarco, where he states that the light of Meridia that Darian is using comes from an unknown infinite source of power.
This light contains almost unlimited power. How did Meridia accomplish that? Did she use a part of herself to fuel it and hide its true nature? Even the night was oblivious. But I see it. The light is a cage, and something inside stirs.
I guess time will tell. Again, they left his character in a cliffhanger. By the way, about 60% of the objectives in these quests are just finding notes or pieces of paper which the bad guys just leave around, and these pieces of paper basically spill out the entire plot. It doesn't need to be said that this is lazy writing, but I just said it anyway. Darian is the only character that gets any real attention. As for the rest, Minimarco is a cartoon villain, Vanus Galerion hardly shows up, Prince Azar is just a quest announcer, and in the end, everyone claps. And the world keeps spinning. Nothing new to see here, folks. There are two things that I really hated about the story, which are the exact problems that I had with Ithelia. I'm starting to notice a pattern here. First of all, they keep introducing new and difficult concepts, but they don't elaborate on them at all. So it ends up sounding silly. A big point they kept yapping about, because this is supposed to be a sequel to the story of the base game, is this. They are no longer trying to bring Mundus to Cold Harbor, they're bringing Cold Harbor to Mundus.
Like Molag Bal's Dark Anchors, but in reverse. Instead of dragging our world into Cold Harbor, he's bringing Cold Harbor into Nuremberg. The eastern side of Solstice is already changing.
Hey buddy, are you okay there? What are you talking about? This could make sense if you elaborated on it, but they expect you to perfectly understand the implications of this. Furthermore, and I don't know if this was explained during the sleep session that I had while going through the main quest, but in the original main quest, Molag Bal and Metamarco have a falling out, and Molag Bal ends up capturing and torturing Metamarco. Why on earth would he still be his ally? What is the point? of harping on about Cold Harbor themes. If those two are through, there might be something there, but it's never explained, and it comes off as dumb. So this whole plot collapses in on its face. It's the same story as Ithelia. Second point, wasted potential. Vanus Galerion and Menemarco are some of the most impactful characters in this franchise. Their rivalry is very well known and very well written, might I add. It's also very interesting because we know that ultimately the bad guy wins and becomes the god of worms. This is a goldmine of opportunities for compelling dialogue. None of this is done. In their few interactions, Menemarco and Vanus Galerion seem to even be uninterested in one another, careless even. They're talking about each other as if they are mildly annoyed by each other's existence, and not as if they are, you know, lifelong adversaries.
Your doom approaches.
You're a bore, Menemarco. Be gone!
As a last note, I get the feeling that they don't know how to market their stories correctly. Like, in the advertisements, we see a thief, a warrior, and a mage. A classic triad, and only a brief mention about Vanus coming back, when all you need to make a fire marketing campaign was a mugshot of Menemarco right next to a mugshot of Vanus, and a rift between them. Something easily better and more interesting for both beginners and seasoned lore nerds. I feel like their bad writing seeps into the advertising, which is how you end up with even more generic slop. Like with every section, I would like to give a few ideas on how questing can become better in the future. That doesn't mean it will, but I'll do it anyway. However, for this section, it would depend. If this and Gold Road is the extent of the storytelling that you can come up with, my sincere advice would be cut the side content, you're wasting time anyway, and make the main quest as non-impactful and unassuming as possible. Don't try to introduce new concepts, don't try to build any characters, don't try telling people about stories about the end of the world. If slop is the only thing you can write, then acknowledge it as slop and keep writing it. See, I used to think that the reason why they made so many bad stories was because they had to write so many of them. I think that by introducing the seasonal content model, the developers also showed their flaws in a perfect display. We got less content than any other time, and still it falls flat. It's not the time restraint. For whatever reason, it's their abilities. Put it to you this way, you think Emil Pagliarulo is bad? You think that Emil and his storytelling falls flat sometimes, or has too many inconsistencies, or is way too basic? I dare you to play a single quest in this zone. You will send Emil a letter kissed with red lip gloss, telling him he's doing great and that we appreciate his work. In Hinduism, I'm going somewhere with this. In traditional Hinduism, they have morning household ceremonies where they offer daily prayers to the patron deity of the household, whose idol is placed inside a small shrine within the household. And I can confirm that after playing the main quest or the side content of Solstice, you too will make the same shrine and perform the same ceremonies. But instead of Krishna or like Ganesha or whomever, you will instead be worshipping an idol of Emil Pagliarulo after seeing other forms of writing that exist out there. Now, I happen to know, my secret spies have informed me, that next year's Slopcast will be revolving around the Dark Brotherhood. I recommend that if this is the extent of what you can write, you should make the story as basic as possible. There really was a time where I would go, yeah, bring back Sothasil, or yeah, bring Vivek back. Please, for the love of God, I will pay you money not to bring these characters back. If ZeniMax puts out a poster saying give us 20 euros or we will bring Vivek and Sothasil back, I would probably pay them. The people who wrote those characters originally no longer work at the company. I know how I sound. I know that I sound like a hater bashing the developers. The real question isn't how I sound. The real question is, do my statements have legit merit behind them? And I fear that the answer is yes, and I'm not happy about it. Think about where this game could have been. The concept of zones alone had so much potential. I remember experiencing the Imperial City and Kraklon for the first time and thinking, wow, think about it. There can be zones when there are only random encounters, more only PvP zones with different gimmicks, zones where the map changes, underwater zones. We got none of that. All I can hope for at this point is that they don't end up destroying the existing stuff as well. And you might say, why are you placing so much emphasis on the story anyway? First of all, I like the stories. I wish they could be back. I want to like the stories. Secondly, as if this wasn't enough, storytelling is the only thing that I think even has potential to improve for the better. The combat is dead. It's never coming back. It died several patches ago, and now they're just hammering the combat's corpse. PvP has mostly died along with the combat, and monetization is and will continue to be terrible. PvE has been the same since Craglorn, maybe Orsinium if you count the arenas, and the Writhing Wall event is a display of their abilities. I wouldn't say PvE will ever change either. Hey, here is a thought experiment. Pretend like this game isn't an Elder Scrolls game and is just any other generic MMO. Do you still care about it? Would you still play it? Exactly, me too. That's what I was thinking. The only really strong thing that this game has going on for it is the IP, and the community is starting to realize this. I have never seen such a huge wave of small Elder Scrolls Online channels voicing their frustrations with the game and asking the question, is it time to quit? To answer this question, we have to look at the future of ESO. So let's do that. As I said earlier, this game is ZeniMax's ride or die title. They keep talking about how ESO will last for another 10 or 20 years, and I'm very confident that it will. The question isn't ESO survival, the question is the state of ESO. Let me tell you a story. 10 years ago, the Crown Store was tiny. There were no Seals of Endeavors, and the latest piece of content there was the Imperial City. Needless to say, the game, although it was more underdeveloped back then, had better foundations. And mind you, it also had better combat. Would you say the same about ESO today? If things continue as they are right now, ESO in 10 years might look like this. The Elder Scrolls Online cannot compete in the modern MMO market, which is what it claims to be. And it also can compare in the modern gacha market, which is what it seems to be aspiring to be these days. In a previous video about ESO, I talked about the economic principle of economies of scale, explaining why because ESO isn't recommendable, it doesn't grow. Now, I want to talk about the solution that ZOS has found for this issue in the form of their new monetization strategies. Right now, ESO is applying a combination of the harvest and the whale-based monetization strategy. Allow me to explain. Have you noticed that each year we're getting less and less? There was no cinematic this year, no small DLC, but we still paid more, and the content we got was terrible. This is what is known as the harvest model, where instead of investing in new ways to get new players and improving the user experience, you make existing players pay more and hold back on actual innovation in exchange for more of the same, but packaged differently, so that it might provide the illusion of innovation. In this entire year, there has been a grand total of a single new enemy type. After all, why get new players when you can squeeze the existing ones for all their money? The second model that you are probably familiar with, because ZOS has been applying it for a really long time by now, is squeezing the whales. Because of how prominent it is in the industry these days, I assume that you know the basics. Give people who are willing to spend money to do better than everyone else as many avenues to do so as possible. Cosmetics, power-ups, homes, unique stations, you name it, and it's in the CROWN store. And now I ask you, if you agree with me that what I am saying here is true, which I need to remind you, you don't have to. You can still like ESO. I would never take that away from anyone or call them clueless or whatever. If you enjoy ESO, good for you. But I ask you, if what I am saying here is true, is this a game that can provide a good experience in the next however so many years? I have never felt the need to repeatedly break down the monetization models of any game I have ever played or reviewed except ESO. Why is that? It's because it's so oppressive that it seeps into every facet of the game. Moreover, the existing components of the game have either deteriorated or remained stagnant, and the player numbers are declining as a result. I will now throw my bets on on how I think the next year is gonna go, just because apparently I have had such a good track record. I'm gonna assume that the story is gonna be an unassuming plot about the Dark Brotherhood. They will attempt to give it some weight by introducing some pseudo mysterious concept that will inevitably fall flat on its face. Expect more items in the Crown Store, that goes without saying. And as for any new features, expect them to start listening on some of the basic feedback. I think now that numbers are the lowest they have ever been and ESO is their only project, they're gonna have to prioritize crossplay in order to boost their numbers. Also expect them to finally increase the difficulty of the overworld content, but of course without offering any significant reward. And I'll be here for all of it. Please feel free to leave your opinions in the comments below. And thank you for watching this video. And until next time, bye bye.
Our assembled forces begin the march east. We'll scour this island clean of the worm cult and all their evil...